following is a GNC podcast production. Welcome to Geek Addicts, a pop culture podcast.
Hello and welcome to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where we talk about books, movies, anime, video games, whatever comes into our minds, doesn't really matter. I am Matt, and with me, my co-host, the man whom I call friend, Bill Barber.
How you doing, Matt? I'm exhausted.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
exhausted today.
I'm with you.
I hit the end of this week and I literally just my body just gave up and it was like, no, you're done for the week.
Yeah, I feel you. And you still got to work again tomorrow morning, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, work is a general term.
Yeah.
I have to go in tomorrow.
I might be doing the same tomorrow. It's still kind of up in the air, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens. It's not mandatory at least, so if I decide not to, it's no big deal.
Ours technically isn't mandatory. They ended our mandate early because I went out of my way to almost run us out of work because I was trying to make a point. But
yeah.
So it's not really mandatory, but I'd like the money because there's a somewhat long weekend. Apparently, I just learned not for everybody coming up next weekend. So,
yep, I'm in the not everybody camp of that.
yeah, I thought Good Friday used to be one of those holidays that everyone got, but I found out recently it's really not. A lot of people have to work it regardless. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I guess it mostly depends on the job. My work it gives some holidays. It's weird though the ones that it chooses because you'd think Good Friday would be one of the ones. But no, we get friggin' President's Day off. Like what?
Yeah, President's Day is a weird one. I've never understood that. The weird one that we get that not a lot of people get is Columbus Day.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
It's just a day off to me at this point. I don't even know what I'm celebrating anymore.
Yeah, who even knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I managed to pick up the most recent Spy Family earlier in the week, the manga. So I'm still up to date on that now. I'm only halfway through reading them. Just kind of been picking them up here and there.
I have volume 11 sitting. I just have to pick it up and read it. I just haven't had really. I've been too tired this week to really do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I haven't gotten much further on Chrono Trigger either. I've only played a little bit more. I was originally planning on playing some Shin Budokai since that was really the only Budokai game I have. Well, I mean, technically I have all the original trilogy and stuff of them, but my PS2 shit the bed, and I do technically have the second one on GameCube, but I had to pull it out, hook it up, and with a 2-year-old, it's kind of hard to make all that work with corded controllers, and it's just way too much more hassle than it was worth. And honestly, I didn't end up having much time to do it anyway. So
yeah. This week was really weird. Not a whole lot got really done, productive wise outside of work. It was kind of bad when the most exciting part of my week was going to Costco yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I almost got almost run over by a mom chasing her kid.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, with a shopping carriage. I was looking at I was getting paper towels, and the next thing I know, a kid runs by, and then the mom freaking flies by chasing after with the carriage, and I'm just like, oh, this is how I die in a Costco. Great.
Jeez.
Yeah, that place is a madhouse. Anytime I go there.
So you know how people always say things like, "Oh, watch this; it'll ruin your childhood." Blah 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 blah. You know. Well, I watched something today that it did a pretty damn good job of it. I don't know if you've heard of that new docuseries, Quiet on Set.
Oh,
Nickelodeon one.
see, I've known he was a I've known he was a freak for years, so it didn't really ruin my childhood that much.
Well, yeah, they talk about Schneider a lot, but that's like yeah, that's bad, and it was unpleasant for everybody involved. But there was a lot worse things in there than just
See,
that.
I saw the Dan Snyder interview where he was so fake the entire fucking time, and they gave him the most softball questions. I was like, this is so staged. Like, it is not even funny.
Oh, freaking! Anytime he's speaking publicly, it's definitely
Did you see
super
his like?
scripted, and yeah.
Did you see his fake cry that he did in one of the interviews?
No, I did because he wasn't really, at least in the docu series, that he wasn't really interviewed personally much. It was more people talking about him. But there was also like some of the other stuff that was going on with Nickelodeon, and one of them in particular that came to light that was not necessarily shocking, because when you look at the turn of his life, like throughout the whole scope of it, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Drake Bell went through some shit.
Yeah, yeah, he did. Um, they all kind of did. There's a reason why out of all of those Nickelodeon live action shows have not aged well at all. Just
No.
kind of the only one that has, and this is because it was the only one that wasn't made by Dan Snyder, was Ned's Declassified.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's been a while since I watched Drake and Josh, but at least I feel like that one wasn't super foot heavy. So
Uh, if you rewatch it, you'll notice a few things. Let's
uh,
just say.
fair enough.
Um, yeah, Ned's Declassified was made by Scott Fellows, and Scott Fellows, from what I've heard, is a very normal guy.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, aside from that, I was very disappointed this week because until you posted that thing on Discord, I thought we were getting the English dub for Sandland this week.
No, I saw that pop up today as well, and I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So I reread the manga at the beginning of the week, expecting to be watching the series a couple days later, but I mean I still could. It's not like I'm against watching the subs, but like if I only have to wait 3 weeks, it's not that big a deal. I'll just wait for the dub.
I stopped by a Barnes and Noble today, and they had a giant like display of for Toriyama, and it was legitimately like just like all of Dragon Ball Z, like all of the Bizbigs, like were just on the desk, and it was like in loving memory of, like, and it was like they were it was clearly them trying to get sales off of his death, which I was like, that's lovely.
Well, I mean, they probably saw how fast their stock of Toriyama stuff went, so they were like,
Oh
"Shit,
yeah,
we gotta get more."
that was it's funny that Barnes and Noble is one of the few that I've actually been to that actually had OG Dragon Ball singles, which you don't see a lot anymore.
No, not really. I guess my wife's gonna be going to the closest Barnes and Noble is to us, which is it's a good bit away, honestly. It's like a good like 30-minute drive away. In a couple of days. So I'm gonna have her keep an eye out, like if she can find some of like one of the Toriyama art books or something.
Yeah, they all got pretty much wiped out. So
It'd be nice. I'm gonna tell her to keep an eye out for Kawa just in case, but it's been out of print, so I highly doubt they'll have it. But
yeah,
just in case.
it's hit or miss. Sometimes you'll find like a gem at a Barnes and Noble, but a lot of the times it's like it's a lot of the same stuff. It's very interesting when they have something that's kind of obscure, but usually it's because it's been there forever and no one's
Mhm.
bought it.
Yeah. Did you hear about the Dragon Ball theme park that's being made in Saudi Arabia?
I saw a thing about it pop up, but I didn't really look far into it.
It's pretty interesting. It's an interesting place for it to be built. I mean, it's a worldwide phenomenon, so really it could have been built anywhere. But
Hmm.
like my first guess, I mean, obviously Japan would be the first guess, but like outside of Japan, like I would have guessed like Mexico or something.
Yeah, no, the Saudis have the money to do it, so
Yeah, that's
probably
fair.
why.
That's
Unfortunately, it's in a part of the world where I'll never visit, so
yeah, yeah. It's a bummer. I mean, if I'm gonna save up the money to do like a trip to something Dragon Ball related, rather go to Japan over Saudi
yeah,
Arabia, honestly.
yeah, I'm not.
And I'm sure there will be more than just that one. So
Yeah, nah, honestly. It's actually kind of sad. I was looking at. I have a notepad on my phone of like manga release dates, just so I can keep up with everything.
Hmm.
Um, I was looking through it and I realized the final volume of Kaguya-sama comes out next month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, it's been done in Japan for a while now, but
Hmm.
the US, the official US volume 28 comes out April 2nd,
Oh,
and then that's done. It's kind of
well,
sad.
yeah. You know, what else is sad is that I mean, it was kind of to be expected, but the super manga is now going on hiatus. Which,
Yeah.
but apparently, from what I read, I guess it was already something that was going to happen, and it's actually unrelated to Toriyama's passing.
Hmm.
So well, I don't know because I one specific thing that I read is the only thing that said this out of all the different things that I saw, but apparently it's the magazine itself that's going on hiatus, which I really hope isn't the case because I'm fairly certain it's the same manga that Boruto is being published in. So I'm gonna be very upset if they're both on hiatus at the same time,
Hmm.
especially since Boruto was on hiatus for like 5 months last year.
Yeah, which is weird because there's been a lot of long runners that have been kind of going through some weird stuff lately.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least last year with Boruto made sense because they were making like the Shippuden jump with Boruto, so
True.
it made sense to have that hiatus there. But um,
I always get afraid whenever a series goes on hiatus like that because like I know like obviously Hunter x Hunter we've seen for a while now he's not doing great. The
apparently that's gonna be coming back soon, though, from what I saw.
hmm. I know Black Clover they're like slowing down releases because the mangaka needs to focus on his health.
Hmm.
Um, that's one of the few things I guess with Oda is like Oda has a team of people around him that like gets him to like take a break every now and then.
Yeah.
So
Um,
that's
but yeah, I was really interested with the way that well, first of all, that the way that last super chapter ended was just so like heartwarming, and it just really fit with like the tone of what's going on with everything Dragon Ball related right now. Um, because I'm pretty sure I mentioned previously that like Goku is now aware of Gohan's power up, and they had a sparring match and all this other stuff, and it kind of turned into um like this big like group sparring thing with Goku, Vegeta, and all of their kids actually, except for Bra. Um, and Broly actually, Broly got involved, and I guess Gohan's new power inspired Broly, and now Broly can control himself.
interesting.
So it's kind of cool.
Did Goku forget he was a dad again and start just beating up his son or
No, but he did forget he was a grandfather.
oh, okay.
Because they
Of
went to go
course.
pick up Pan from kindergarten. He's like, Pan? Who's that?
Okay, that's even worse. Like what the hell? Especially because they showed him as like a loving grandpa earlier too.
Yeah, like in Z, like he was like a super good grandfather, and then it's just like, no, he's still Goku.
Even in the super anime, they showed him like actually caring for once. Like they'll never get Goku's personality right, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And then the latest Boruto was really interesting too, because they are hinting towards something pretty significant. I'm just gonna ask before I say anything. Do you know anything about what happened with like Karama towards the end of like the first Boruto series?
Well, I know he dies because of
Yeah,
ma-
who
the
dies?
weird the weird superpower that Naruto gets.
Yes. So it's not confirmed yet, but there is a significant hint or like foreshadowing that uh, Himawari might have that now.
Oh, gee. Okay, sure. Why not?
So, or at least has some sort of lingering Nine Tails power or something. Because I don't want to. It would take too long to explain. But essentially, somebody's hunting down Naruto. He's not in this dimension, essentially, but he was supposedly following Naruto's power, and he ended up where Himawari is. So that leads people to believe certain things. So
That was a fandom theory for a while too, which is kind of interesting.
yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. I'm excited to see where it goes. like I said, hopefully that one's not on hiatus too. I'd be very upset.
Yeah. This makes me wonder what I'm trying to think of, like new series too that have been kind of interesting. And Spy Family's the one that's kind of I'm following right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I
want to
still
know.
haven't caught up to the anime yet in the manga, but I just did. Oh, no, I think I'm in the middle of the tennis tournament part in the
Oh, okay.
manga. Yeah.
You get to see your murder a tennis ball.
Yes. I think I just read the chapter where she's like contemplating whether or not she should kill Nightfall.
Yeah, I love yours as a character.
Yeah,
She's very
she's pretty great.
she's very well written, especially for her goofy seriousness.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know. I just love the whole dynamic in that show. It's just perfect.
Yeah, don't know how he's gonna resolve that, but I'm interested to see where it goes.
I'm interested to see how long it goes, honestly, because if he's already kind of losing interest, like I don't know how long he's going to keep it going. But
He's
it's
been
also
losing.
so popular.
Yeah, it's mega popular to the point where he's kind of stuck with it now. So
Better get used to it, bud.
yeah, you can't just pull a Akasaka and just end it because you feel like doing something else.
Yeah, right. Well.
Uh, but yeah, so we've killed 16 minutes. I guess we should probably jump into our topic for this one. Um, so we're for this episode we're talking about Dragon Ball Z Budokai
Yes. Well, the Budokai like kind of franchise as a whole.
series,
Yeah.
the OG good Dragon Ball games, as people say.
Yeah. The classic 2D fighter style.
Yeah, it's very interesting too because the new one is coming out pretty soon. Not Budokai. It's part of the Tenkaichi series, the Shining Spark or whatever.
Oh, I forget.
It's got some dumb name like
Sparking Zero or something.
Sparking Zero. That's actually coming out pretty soon. Which I'm happy for all the Budokai Tenkaichi fans. So
Yeah, I gotta say, in your previous GNC, well, I guess this your latest collecting episode, I should say. I will defend Tenkaichi 3 up and down. So
I'm sure
just
if
gonna
I
throw
took
that out there right now.
I'm sure if I took the time to sit down and get used to it, I'd like it. But trying to play it off the spot, holy fuck! Like
I'm just
nothing.
saying, it's no more complicated than Xenoverse, and that game's going strong 8 years later. So
True, very true. But Budokai, the original, is a much simpler game.
yeah,
Almost
yes.
almost too simple in a lot of ways.
Unless you don't like doing combos, like
Or
combos
just
to activate your supers, I should say.
or just spamming beam key blasts.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so in hindsight, I think it's safe to say the main reason people play Budokai 1 is for its wonderful story mode.
Yes, and the cutscenes and stuff. Everyone went nuts over the cutscenes when we were kids.
Yeah. Nowadays they look jank as shit, but they're still very endearing in a
Yeah, but go ahead.
interesting way. They're endearing in that this is awful, but I love it kind of way.
See, I love watching it now or playing it now and seeing the cutscenes and looking at like the janky ass way that they like edited the mouth flaps to match the English.
The mouth flaps and the fact that you'll notice this once you get told this, you'll never be able to unsee it. Every character has the same model. And that's why Vegeta is wide as fuck for no reason in this game,
which makes so little sense.
Because
you got like characters like Nappa and Bird, they're just fucking huge, and then you got like Krillin or Kid Gohan that are tiny, but they're all like
wide.
Yeah,
like really wide for some reason.
That's why everybody chose freaking that's why everyone liked playing as Krillin back in the day, though, because like everybody else was so tall and he's so short that like half of the punches would just go right over his head.
Yeah, this one was interesting too because it only covers up to the end of Cell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a very condensed and not over bloated story for Dragon Ball standards.
Yeah, and it kind of skips around to some stuff too.
Yeah, it's like an abridged version of abridged, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, one thing I find interesting about the original too is this is the only one that didn't use cell shading.
And I honestly thought it looked really nice for the time, at least, especially if you're playing it on like an old tube TV.
Hmm.
Like it, like the models actually look pretty nice.
They do look good. The cell shading, I will say, looks much better in the later games, but
Mhm.
I think the original looks pretty good. The GameCube version of Budokai 1, I also have that. I didn't grab it because it doesn't really matter for this, but they actually like kind of pseudo cell shaded the graphics in that, so it looks slightly nicer in the
Mhm.
GameCube version. Um, one other thing I really like about this game, particularly the story, is the Funimation dubbing.
Mhm.
It is a very interesting time capsule in like Funimation's DBZ history because this is like that weird period in between Z was over, but it was before Kai. So
Yeah.
like you have like the Funimation actors right when they hit their stride, but it's still like the classic like actors. Like I think Tiffany Valmer's still Valma.
Oh yeah.
Um, Frieza. Linda Young is still Frieza, which is
Mhm.
very noticeable. First time to play.
Stephanie the Doll is still go on.
Mhm.
Yep.
Pretty much all the original voice cast is in this, and it's right when they hit their peak, like right when they kind of like really figured out all these voices. Like there is some great work in this game, and it really makes it stand out as kind of just this weird time capsule in Dragon Ball history.
You know, one of my favorite things about this game though is the silly ass things like one liners and noises that a lot of the characters will make as you're playing it. I swear to God, anybody who played this game or really any of them, because they reused a lot of them for the later games, that there is embedded in their memory. Like any
Just
of us who played it, like when you're sidestepping with Nappa, and he goes, "Won't hit me, won't hit me, won't hit me."
fucking anything Cell says in this game is like what the fuck.
Oh yeah, because it's always the imperfect Cell voice.
Yeah, because they
Yeah,
fucked
first
that
form.
up.
Mhm. Well,
Uh,
I think there actually is a reason for that. I think they only had one voice track for Cell, so they actually couldn't record. They had to pretty much settle on one specific voice for Cell overall,
yeah.
and I guess they just went with that one because it was easier. Um, but
This
yeah,
game also uses Rock the Dragon still.
yes, I loved that.
It's
Loved it. I still love Rock the Dragon. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, yeah, Chala Had Chala is great. You know, I'll never bash that, but there's just something about Rock the Dragon just brings me back.
there's just to me there's something about Rock the Dragon combined with the janky ass 3D recreation of the Dragon Ball Z intro that like makes me just like adore this like game for some reason.
It's great. Yeah, yeah, they literally completely redid the opening sequence from the anime, but
And
with
oof.
the models.
Just oof, it does not look good. In the endearing, heartwarming, like this is garbage, but I love it kind of way.
Yeah. Oh
Uh
god.
Especially the scene of Gohan running away from the dinosaur and then Bulma coming in on her motorcycle. I'm like, oh my god, that looks terrible, but I love
Oh
it.
yeah, for sure. Oh man.
Also, Rock the Dragon is just so 90s as fuck. I love it.
Oh, of course. You know, it's got to have that 90s rock in there.
You'll notice we're not talking about the combat much for the first game. That's because there's not much to say. It's incredibly bland combat.
Yeah, I mean it's your basic, you know, you get your punch button, your kick button, your energy blast button, and your guard button, and that's pretty much the long and short of it.
Add
Um,
flying into the equation, and the game becomes fucking a mess. That's all
yeah.
I'll say.
Uh,
Um,
I will say that the way that the supers work, you had to type in combos for each one. In the later iterations of the games, you know, there were shortcuts to activating them, which you know added a little bit of spice to the matches. But in this original first game, you had to do the full combo every time.
yeah. And I will say, like, the comparing this to its immediate predecessor in terms of 3D fighters for Dragon Ball, which was Final Bout, this is day or night. This game feels like a modern Tekken compared to that piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. And I love that the secret character for this game was the Great Saiyaman.
Yeah, that was fun.
Like, it's just perfect. It's like
Even though he wasn't technically by storyline in this game, he wasn't a thing yet. Even though we knew about him by this point, but
yeah, I think yeah, he was like the actual official like secret character, and then I guess like the secondary secret character was Mr. Satan because I think when you unlock him is when you get like the Hercule story mode thing.
was this the first game that gave him a jetpack during combat, or was that a later one?
I believe it was this one.
Okay, because I know in Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22, another awful PlayStation fighter, he was an unlockable character in that game as well, and he didn't even have a jetpack. So like legitimately, if you played as him and the other player was a Saiyan, you could just fly in the air and he could not hit you.
That's just super funny.
And you could just throw ki at him the whole time, and he would just be like, "This is sad."
That's awesome.
Um,
Well, another thing I liked about this game was there was a little what if story at the end of each of the story arcs.
oh yeah, the Krillin Cell hybrid. That's amazing.
Yes, when Cell absorbs Krillin and turns into an orange Cell Junior with no nose.
Yeah,
And gets his ass kicked by Yamcha and Tien.
what a way to go.
Yeah. The Frieza one wasn't really much. I think that one was just, oh, Frieza got his wish and he left and now he's gonna go blow Earth. Like it was like, that's kind of boring.
My favorite. This isn't a what if, but because of how janky the graphics are, at times one of my favorite scenes is when Vegeta kills Nappa. It legit looks like he just shot him with his dick cannon.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus Christ, the way they animated it looks awful.
Yeah. Yeah. There was definitely a lot they could have done. And honestly, like the remaster that we got wasn't great either, honestly.
Oh, the HD
Like,
HD collection version, which is like it looks prettier, and they replaced the music because of Yamamoto reasons or something like that.
yeah, it was Yamamoto, but which I'm honestly bummed about because I love the original Budokai trilogy music. It's so good.
Thankfully, these are cheap as fuck. So
yeah, I need to get either need to get around to getting another PS2 or picking up that one for the first one for GameCube. I had the second one for GameCube, which is my favorite of the three, personally. So
we didn't mention it too, but there's also the little mini games that you could play during the story mode.
Oh yeah,
like holding Raditz in front of the special beam cannon.
that was God. I hated that when I was a kid.
It just looks so dumb.
Annoying. It was so annoying because he'd always do it too far or not enough, and he'd pull you away, or you'd accidentally launch yourself all the way. I remember like when I was a kid, I spent like half an hour trying to get that one right. I swear to God, it was the worst. It's the worst.
Also, this game has kind of like a prize like system that like when you finish like a battle, like you'll get like a capsule of reward.
Mm-hmm.
This game is great at ruining the mood of scenes with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you finish a cutscene, it's when it gives like the rewards, but like it usually will end the cutscene prematurely and it give you a reward thing. So like my favorite is like the scene right after Cell shoots Trunks like straight through the chest. You get the clip of Trunks falling to the ground, and then just like you got a capsule, and it's like, oh boy.
And it starts with the goofy ass music that goes with it.
Yeah, as Trunks is falling to the ground in slow motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the capsule, the whole like capsule system in this game, they made it a lot easier in the later ones, but like buying new capsules and stuff in this game was such a pain in the ass. Because first of all, the only way you could get money is by doing the tournament. Which
you know that do you know the trick to beating every tournament?
What's that?
Just throw them out of the ring.
Well, I mean,
just ring out. Just
true.
every battle.
I mean, I guess in the first two, would probably be a little easier to do that because the whole teleporting behind wasn't a thing until later. But
Yeah. Oh, and in the
yeah,
first game in particular, it's the easiest way. Just grab them and throw them out of the ring. It's just
yeah.
like you win.
Um, but yeah, you can only get money through the tournaments, and then you don't know what you're buying when you go to the store. It's completely randomized, so
Yep.
you have no idea what you're getting or who you're getting it for, whether it's going to be an attack or just like an equipable like stat boost item or a transformation. You have no idea. So that was incredibly annoying.
Hmm. Yeah, I think overall, like this game has not aged well as a game itself, but as a little piece of history and the story mode, I think it's worth going back to for that alone.
Yeah, it's one of those games that I tend to go back to once every few years. It's been a while now. I mean, if I pulled up my 360, I could I could play the remastered version, but I'd honestly much rather play the original
Hmm. Yeah, like
personally.
it's not a bad game, but it's also like it's very clearly like the first in a series, and it has not aged
Mhm.
particularly well, especially with modern advancements.
Yeah.
Because moving on, we get Budokai 2.
Yes, my personal favorite out of the three.
I love this cover because it's like very specifically like, look, we're covering Boo this time.
Yeah, this is like, hey, look, Vegito, Gotenks, and Boo. Like,
And
make it very obvious.
Goku doing the spirit bomb in the background because they had a space, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, well, I mean,
Um,
that was a lot of people's biggest gripes with the first game at the time, at least, was that it didn't cover Boo, so they probably really wanted to showcase the fact that they were doing it, but they did it in a very interesting way with the story mode in general.
oh, the board game.
Yeah,
The board game is the most hilarious thing ever.
it is, and honestly, like it's a fun spin on it because if you're gonna do Battle to Boo, you should. I mean, it wasn't overdone at this point, so I guess it wasn't that big a deal.
This was the beginning of it being overdone, where like every game was like, we're gonna tell DBZ again, but this time it's gonna be a board game.
Yeah, but like, I mean, there was a lot of like goofy little like not what ifs necessarily, but like kind of twists on it where like they tell the story, but there's no like cutscenes or anything. It's literally just you're on the board game. The characters
And
talk to each other.
the characters jump up on screen and then they just taunt you and then they jump
Yeah,
off.
they're like little like suction cup game pieces that just kind of plop around the map. Yeah, it was an interesting way to handle it. And honestly, I found it extremely fun personally.
The music in this game is the funkiest shit ever.
Oh yeah, it's the best. And the opening song for like that opening cutscene. Um,
The one that
I,
sounds straight up like Tower of Power, I think.
I don't remember the name of it, but I know what's his name? Jonathan Young on YouTube does an English cover of it, and it's fucking fire.
Yeah, let me look up here the soundtrack. Who composed this game?
I'm pretty sure it was Yamamoto. But the what's his name? The guy who sang Chala Head Chala sang the opening song of the Japanese version. So it
Hmm.
was like an actual song with lyrics, but they took the lyrics out for our version, which is a shame.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I think it was just still during the time period where the people putting these out were like, "Oh, Japanese words bad, take them out."
Yeah,
American kids
yeah,
don't
like
like that. Like,
every Tales series game had that stuff like ripped out. It
mhm.
sucked.
But
Oh man. Yeah, the the music in these games in this game in particular was funky as shit.
oh yeah, I loved it too. Like this is one of those game soundtracks that I will just put on because I love everything about it. It's amazing.
Oh, Tower of Power was involved with the soundtrack. That's why I thought that.
Ah, okay.
And the guitarist of Toto.
Really?
How random. But it
That's
makes
hilarious.
you know what? You know what I think? That's why this one didn't get re-released. Licensing.
Yeah,
Right there.
I do remember licensing being a reason. I just didn't know the specifics of it. That makes a lot more sense now.
Because this game it has so much jazz funk. like you're just expecting to hear like "What is hip" by Tower of Power the whole time.
Mm.
It,
But yeah, it's
I mean, I love it, but my God, it's such an interesting thing.
yeah, it's really fun though. It's and they polished up a lot of the mechanics from the first game,
Oh,
made it a
the
lot
fight,
smoother.
the fighting is significantly better.
Yeah, they made it a lot smoother. You still have the combos for your attacks, but for like at least like the basic supers, you have like shortcuts, so you could just do like a single button push to activate them. But then like the more powerful like finishing moves, you had to actually do the combos for. Um, and then there was a lot of like goofy little not like what if storylines, but what if fusions and boo absorptions and stuff. Because you could do Tien and Yamcha do the fusion dance and create Tiancha.
I loved shit like that because it was either like the coolest thing ever or just fucking nightmare fuel like that fucking Yamcha Chaozu fusion we saw in that book.
Yeah. Um, oh, and all the goofy Boo fusions too were great. Like he could absorb Frieza or Cell or Vegeta or obviously the canon ones like Gotenks and Gohan. And I think there was one where he would absorb Tien and Yamcha at the same time.
What
Yeah,
a combination there.
yeah. And he would even do it like in the story mode too, because for some reason in the board game story modes, whenever a villain would be like a main villain would be defeated, for some reason it would be revived in like the following board game. So like you're in the hyperbolic time chamber
Yeah.
fighting Boo, and for some reason Frieza and Cell are there. So if Boo's little like game piece token landed on one that Frieza or Cell were on, he would absorb them and he would like gain features from them. And it was pretty cool.
It was definitely interesting. It is still like the most bizarre single player, I think, in a Dragon Ball fighter.
I definitely think they did it better than Fighters personally.
Well, Fighter's single player is just boring.
Yeah,
Um,
see, Fighters they should have just done away with the game board aspect of it and just made it like Mortal Kombat.
yeah, just like
Like,
a linear story.
yeah, it's just a storyline with cutscenes, and then there's fights in the middle of the cutscenes. Like you're just telling the story, and then it throws you into a fight, and then you continue the story right after. Like that would have been way better.
Yeah, they were like afraid to not have the game be padded out, so they like just like padded it out so unnecessarily.
Well, that's the thing is when you make a really competent fighting game with a big online scene, nobody plays the story mode.
Yeah, most Dragon Ball fans played it once, and the others just looked up the cutscenes on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Which I don't know. You'd think people making who are used not only making a fighting game but used to making fighting games would know that. But what are you gonna do?
Well, Arc has always been known for their fucking stories being annoying as fuck to complete. So
Yeah, well, this
I'm
is the
guessing,
only one of their games that I actually played all the way
yeah,
through. So
if you played Persona 4 Arena, oof, the original one, ooh, getting everything in that story was fucking annoying.
I can imagine.
But yeah, the board game, on the other hand, other than being just weird, is pretty simple,
Yeah,
straightforward.
yeah, and there was a lot of like fun character interactions throughout. And the cool thing was you could kind of like pick your team as you're going through
Yeah,
because you almost always have Goku on the board because he's just always going to be there. And for some
because
reason, he's the only one who is just himself and not a game piece.
because Goku.
Yeah. But you whenever you go to a new like board, I guess, you would get the option to pick like one or two characters to be on your team. And they give you a list of like 10 or so to choose from, which is really weird because if you choose Gohan in the Saiyan Saga, it's adult Gohan. So that was kind of weird.
Yeah. Uh, board game.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, aside from that, I mean, there's not really a whole lot else to say. I forget which. I think also a side like not really a story mode, but it was kind of like a side game mode called Bobity's Spaceship,
Hmm.
which was basically just like a big fighting arena where you could just fight a bunch of guys, and I think you get a lot of like the capsules and stuff that way.
That's where
Um,
I learned a lot of the moves.
yeah, I think you get a lot of stuff for like the villain characters like Deborah and Boo and stuff from doing that.
Hmm.
You might even get a couple of the characters that way. I'm not 100% sure.
Was this still pre-Kai? I don't remember.
Yeah,
Okay, so it was still
yeah.
using classic
I don't
Funimation voices.
I don't think I think Ultimate Tenkaichi was when they were starting to phase out some of the original actors and add in the new ones, because
Okay.
that was the weird one where like when you're playing the story, like Frieza would switch like mid cutscene between Chris Ayres and Linda Young.
Then they're not even close.
Like literally, like in the same cutscene, he'll say a line in Linda Young's voice, and then somebody will say something to him, and then he'll answer in Chris Ayres' voice. Like it was
See,
bizarre as fuck.
at least like nowadays, like Chris Ayres and Damon Mills sound very similar.
Mhm.
But that's like not even close. Like going back.
Although I guess going forward, it's pretty much just gonna be Damon Mills.
Yeah, true. Um, that's sad in
Yeah,
hindsight. But I mean, even like Bulma, like unless you're really paying attention, you really won't notice as much of it between Tiffany Vollmer and Monica Riel.
yeah,
Um, yeah, Linda Young and Chris Ayres though, that's like that's like not even close.
yeah.
So,
It's night and day.
um, anything else really about two? Two is a weird
um,
one because it's like it's very significantly improved, but it's really not that remarkable.
I mean, a lot of the best things to say about it are really in comparison to the other games.
True.
Because there's a lot of like game mechanic reasons why this one is my favorite. On top of like the silly shit, like the fusions and the absorptions and stuff. Like Goku, Goku is actually an extremely powerful character in this game,
Yeah.
and it's just goofy as fuck to have freaking a fused Goku character with an afro and a mustache. It's just he does like this weird trick beam thing.
Yeah.
It's goofy as hell. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, there's really not a whole lot to say. Because I mean, aside from all that, it's pretty much the same deal. You know, you get your story mode, you get capsules through it, capsules and Dragon Balls from it. Um,
None of that hilarious jank like the first one though, because the story isn't. The story is honestly more professionally done this time around, but at the same time, it's a board game, so it's not nearly as exciting.
Also, I think this is the game where you can cheese the capsule system.
Yeah.
Because I think this is the one. I believe Bulma was the. Oh no, was it? I think it was Launch. Either Bulma or Launch was the one who like hosted the shop in this game, and there was a glitch where if you just enter and leave the shop over and over again, your uh, like percentage of capsules collected will go up over like the more and more you do it, and by the end of it, you'll just have all of them.
Huh. Interesting.
So literally, if you just go into the shop and leave over and over and over again, you'll have everything.
That's one of those glitches that's like, how did they miss that?
Yeah, right. So like a lot of times, whenever I played that game, I would just end up doing that because it's just a lot easier than. I mean, I wouldn't always do it. Sometimes I would play the game the way it was meant to be played, but you know, you can only do the tournament so many times. You don't
Yeah,
make that much money in the story mode.
you can only throw the guy out of the ring so many times.
Exactly.
Because I'm pretty sure this game you could still do that.
Yeah, I think it was the following game when the teleporting thing came into play.
Yeah. Speaking of the following game, Budokai 3. I'm not
Yes.
gonna lie, this cover is incredibly boring compared to the other two.
Yeah, I think there is an alternate cover for it, but believe that's the one I have too.
This was definitely the North American cover that I know of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the one that most people remember fondly. Like this is the one that most people consider to be the best out of the three.
It's mostly for the fighting mechanics, from what I've seen.
See, that's exactly where I have issue with it personally. And I'm not saying it's a bad game because I played the shit out of Budokai 3. I don't think it's a bad game, but I fucking hate that stupid like ultimate mode Dragon Rush shit that they implemented, which basically turns a competent fighter into a game of rock paper scissors.
Yes.
And that's just so fucking frustrating, especially when you're playing the story mode, because the computers spam it over and over, and they never miss. Like, it's so irritating. I hate the rock paper scissors aspect of it.
I love the back of the box though. Like, the greatest warriors, a tournament of champions, only one will prevail.
Yeah, which is funny because there's no tournament involved aside from what's this. I mean, yeah, there's like the tournament mode, but like I don't know why you would like advertise it as like, oh, the big tournament, one will prevail. Like, what are you talking about? It's just the story.
That's such a jump too, because the first game was the tagline was literally a showdown of legendary proportions, and then the second game was literally drop in, power up, throw down. This one though, only one will prevail.
Jeez. But one thing I will say that this game definitely has going for it is the story mode.
So this is the game that had the flying around, right?
Yeah.
That I remember just like doing that for hours, just flying around aimlessly.
Oh yeah, and it was so cool because like this was I don't remember if this game came out before or after Legacy of Goku 2. Do you know off the top of your head when this game came out?
I can do a quick search real quick and figure that out.
I know it's one or the other. I want to say, I think Legacy of Goku 2 might have been first, but this was one of the first things that introduced the full Dragon World map, at least to U.S. audience or a Western audience in general. And like we had never actually seen what it looked like before, and it's really interesting because it's like this like Pangea type like single landmass map with like a few islands here and there and stuff. But like for the most part, it's literally like if Pangea was still a thing. That's essentially what the Dragon World is.
So Legacy of Goku 2 released 1 year before this.
Okay.
Did you know this came out in America before it came out in Japan?
Did it really?
Yeah, it came out in 2004 in America. Japan didn't get it till 2005.
Wow. That's weird.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
But yeah, there's a lot of fun like character stuff too with this one too, because like having the aspect of being able to fly around the map, it gave a lot of opportunities to have these kinds of little character moments and to spin the story off in a different directions. Oh, we didn't even mention the fact that there were different storylines for each character.
Yes.
Which was also a really interesting part. Not every character, unfortunately. I would have liked if there was a few others. For some reason, they gave Broly his own story, which was weird.
And keep in mind, this was annoying, crappy Broly, not the current one that we have.
Yes. Yeah, so it was really bizarre. And there was a lot of stuff in this game that really confused me as a child because growing up when we did Youngins, there was no streaming. There was no Crunchyroll. There was no nothing. So we had Toonami. We got one episode a day. And they liked to reset it a lot.
Oh, yeah, like Raditz, the spaceship, yes. Raditz coming in.
Yes, that's what I mean by that is they'll be going through and we'll be watching along and enjoying the story and excited to see what happens next. And then the next day would come and Raditz's spaceship is landing. And we get to go through all those episodes again. So very few of us actually got to watch the whole series beginning to end. So a lot of people would experience the story through the video games. So with games like this, where they like to add different, creative ways to kind of tell the story in different ways, it would be a little confusing for a lot of us. Like for instance, when Broly is introduced in the story mode, because you can only access some of these like side paths on like your second or third run through. And I believe you encounter Broly in Goku's story mode. But when you encounter him, he goes, oh, this is that Broly guy that Trunks told us about. What?
When is that?
That was really confusing for me as a child. 'Cause
That was in the non-canon a movie that never came out. Right.
yeah, and that was the other thing is I'm pretty sure at that point the Broly movie hadn't even come out. Broly was just a rumor over here. People like had seen pictures of Broly, but nobody knew really who he was. We didn't have the movie yet.
And then we got it and we were like, oh,
That's underwhelming.
his backstory is terrible.
Yeah. Which
But
actually the opening like cutscene song of Budokai 3 fucked me up when I was a kid because as I said before, we didn't have the Broly movie right away. So when we see this big like epic animation of all these people fighting, and then at the end you see Goku Vegeta fuse into Gogeta and Gogeta fighting Broly, I thought that was fucking amazing, and I couldn't wait to see the Broly movies to see this happen.
and then it doesn't.
And then it didn't happen.
But
It was
at least we had Drowning Pool and Disturbed.
true, but to be fair, we did eventually get that fight, and I am happy about that.
Yeah, we did
But,
actually in hindsight years later, and it was epic.
yeah,
But
decades later, we did finally get that fight. But
with a completely different version of the character. But that's
it's
besides the point.
kind of a completely different version of both characters, honestly. But
Yeah.
I'm still happy with it, honestly. But yeah, that was one of those things that I really wanted as a kid because this game made me want it. It's something I never would have even thought of until it showed it to me. But yeah, I don't know.
I always wonder if the writers for Dragon Ball ever like look back at the games and are like, that's a good idea. I'm going to use that.
You know, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised because I feel like they do that with the fan mangas too, honestly.
Mm,
Because there's a lot of stuff in multiverse and AF and stuff that you definitely see elements of in Super nowadays.
yeah.
But
You know what's funny though? Like I remember playing around and just messing around with the free flying for so long. And I always was like, I wish we could get an entire game where you could just free fly around the Dragon Ball world. And then now we have it. It's called Kakarot.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, you can kind of fly around, but like you can't like really fly around the whole map. Like you gotta like go to different sections and stuff. It's like
True, but
I would have really liked like just a true open world Dragon Ball game. But
yeah. I like the way Kakarot did it though. I think it was just big enough that it was like fun.
yeah, well, I'm not shitting on Kakarot. It could have been so much more.
See, I wanted as a kid, I like the flying in Budokai 3, and I was like, I want a game that's like just like that, but with an actual game attached to it.
Yeah,
And then we got that, and it was awesome.
yeah, the flying around was cool, and I liked that. It was a lot easier to get the Dragon Balls in this particular story mode than the previous games. Because
Oh yeah, I forgot about that entirely.
because if you fly around enough and just encounter, because when you're flying around, occasionally you'll fly over a spot where like a little like question mark will appear in the corner of the screen, and you could jump down to that and it'll have a character interaction, or you'll find an item or money or a capsule or whatever. But you can find the Dragon Radar like that, and with that you can fly around until you see an orange dot on the radar. What they don't tell you is that you can only get like maybe two or three, and then you won't be able to get another one until the next arc.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was a little annoying, but that was how you got the breakthroughs for each character, which is basically just a fancy way of saying that you get pretty much every transformation and skill for a character, and it equips them all at once. So,
Oh, yes, the ultimate, as they say.
yes, exactly. But yeah, altogether, I mean, this game did a lot. It was very pretty. The music was good.
40 characters,
Yeah, which they added a lot of characters that we didn't have previously, like
which
Broly, Bardock. Was Janemba in this game?
I think so.
I know Cooler was. Cooler
Yeah.
definitely was. I don't remember if Janemba was or not, but
Ironically, at the time, I was like, I don't think we could get any more characters. This is epic. And then, like, we get fucking Budokai Tenkaichi 3 with like it's like 80, 90 something characters, and it's like holy shit.
Oh, Budokai Tenkaichi 3 had like 160.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Even the first one though had like a ton of characters. The only thing about that one though is each transformation counted as a separate character in that particular in the first one. The later ones, like, yeah, there were different versions of each character based on the time period, but you could actually activate the transformations mid battle, which was cool. But we're not talking about those games today.
No, I also give them credit. At least, like with these games, they weren't overly reliant on Goku's to fill out the roster.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, Kid Goku was in this game, wasn't he?
Yes, I believe so.
That's right.
Kid
I
Goku
loved
makes
playing as Kid
interesting.
Goku.
He makes interesting appearances in some of these fighters.
Yeah, I always loved playing as Kid Goku. It's always one of the best because he always has like the rock paper scissors attack, and you mess around with the power pole, and
He usually flies around on the Nimbus.
his quote unquote dragon fist
Yeah.
when it's really an Ozaru fist. they always misname and stuff like that.
Budokai 3 was definitely the one I would see at parties all the time. Like the
Mhm.
one where like someone would have the PS2 set up and that was like the game.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I did like one little detail about 3, it might have been a thing in 2 too. I'm not sure, but when you'd have a Spirit Bomb equipped to Goku and you'd use it, you do the Spirit Bomb. But if you're already transformed into a Super Saiyan or higher, it would activate Dragon Fist instead.
Yeah,
which was kind of cool.
They this game had GT elements too, didn't it?
That's right. Yeah, you could. Omega Shenron was in it, and Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, and I believe Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta as well.
Super Saiyan 4 is like still that like lost thing that like I'm sadly will never get back, but it's like the one thing from GT that everyone still remembers fondly.
It'll always be in the video games at the very least, and I'm sure Heroes will never let that die.
That would be. It's sad because we'll never know, but that would have been the most Toriyama shit if like he just like pulled out of nowhere like, oh yeah, 4 is more powerful than Ultra Instinct. It was like, what?
He totally would have done that too.
Yeah,
just to mess with people,
just to let Vegeta have it.
And he wasn't drawing the manga anymore, so he wouldn't give a shit.
No.
I mean, that was why he got rid of Tails in the first place, is because he was sick of drawing them.
That's why Super Saiyan was made, because he was lazy. He didn't want to color in the hair.
Yeah, that's true.
I love the backgrounds of manga artists. Like, sometimes the reasoning for things is hilarious.
Yeah, so many of the things that he did were just to make his life easier. Like making Frieza's final form, like that sleek, simple version, was just so he wouldn't have to work as hard. Imagine how much effort it took to draw like third form Frieza. Like, fuck that.
Meanwhile, the artists for like the cooler movies created the fourth form, which was this extremely over-designed thing.
Yeah. And then when Toriyama came back, it was like, yeah, Frieza's coming back. He's gonna have a new form. It's gold. The same thing as his old one, just gold.
Very, very Toriyama. It's like Goku's getting a new form. It's pink. Like, and he's less muscular.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just silly. But yeah, overall, yeah, I'd say Budokai 3 it's a solid game. It's just that one aspect about the mechanics that just bothered the hell out of me and make the game incredibly frustrating for me personally. And it took out all the combos too. And I liked inputting the combos to do the special moves because it felt satisfying when you actually pulled one off.
You can't cheese the tournaments anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the teleporting aspect definitely made that more difficult.
I will say by 3 though, like they hit perfected like air combat considerably because like you could actually do full battles in the air now.
Oh yeah, for sure. In fact, I think there might have been some that were you had to do in the air. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
so we also I don't own them, so I can't really show them. But you wanted to mention the Shin Budokai games as well.
Yeah, those were really interesting games because when I was a kid, I got a PSP one year for Christmas, and And I didn't really know what the hell to get for or whatever. But one day I saw the Shin Budokai games in GameStop, and I got super pumped. It was like awesome, like a Budokai game that I have handheld. That's great. And it's honestly, they're solid games. It's basically just the Budokai system, but like more simplified. You don't do any combos for your special moves or your ultimate moves or anything like that. You just, I think you get two supers and then a transformation and an ultimate, and it's all just variations of a direction and the energy button, which, like I said, a lot simplified.
From what I remember, it's essentially the Budokai 3 engine, but like dumbed down for handheld.
Pretty much. I mean, they handle the story modes in interesting ways. I've been replaying the first one for the first time in a long time because my copy was unplayable for a while because the little, I don't know, anybody who remembers PSP games, they had that weird little plastic case around the disc because, yes, this handheld had disc games. So bizarre. I still don't understand why they did that, but
Sony.
Yeah. So the little plastic casing around the disc of that particular game, like the little like plastic window to look at the game, kind of popped a little bit, so it wouldn't read the disc anymore. But I ended up recently I popped open like a demo disc case thing that I had, and I just switched the discs on it, and it works now. So
you can actually buy replacement cases for the discs now too. That actually like third-party versions of those that actually work now. So it's kind of cool.
That might actually be better because I couldn't get the thing to clip closed again. So it's just kind of, it's not like open, but if it caught on something, it could definitely open up and spit the game out. But so yeah, I've been replaying that for the first time in a while for that reason, and I had totally forgotten that it was basically like a weird retelling of Fusion Reborn.
Yeah, in
it's
the
like
best way.
Yeah, and it's got like these like timelines with like diverging storylines and stuff, and depending on like decisions and stuff that you make throughout, it can kind of affect the line. And ultimately, you can go back and redo them in different ways. But
isn't it some shit that the like arguably the most interesting fucking story mode I think we've had yet was the one that they stuck on the handheld that barely anyone bought?
I mean, honestly, I think that is the case. I personally like the story mode in the second one better, but the first one, I'm definitely enjoying it because it takes the whole concept of Fusion Reborn, where heaven and hell are out of balance, so all the dead are coming back. So that explains why all the villains are there. And apparently, it takes it a step further, and now time is becoming a problem as well. So like, the younger versions of some of the characters like Gohan and so forth are also showing up. Pycon is there for some reason. Well, I guess it's Fusion Reborn, so he should be there. But
he's got to yell at the wall.
Yeah, he's got to yell at the wall and do his whole thing. I'm only on chapter 3 at the moment, so I haven't gotten all the way to the end yet. But it's been pretty cool so far, and it's actually a surprising amount of characters in the game. So, I mean, that was the basic idea of that first game. The second game is a little bit more interesting with the story mode because it actually has like kind of maps that you fly around. Because basically the way that one works is the story is that Trunks you're in Trunks' world, Trunks' future, and Bobbity and Deborah show up, and they're causing havoc. And Trunks is like, oh, well, I gotta go get some help because they are out of my league. So he hops in his new improved time machine that has room for literally anybody who can fight in it. And he goes and picks everybody up and brings them to the future. And it starts this whole story where like you kind of have like the flying around aspect a little bit of Budokai 3. Not to the same degree, but you have these little maps where you fly around and you find all the enemies, and you have to defend the cities that have been rebuilt after the androids from the enemies. And that was like a big part of the story as well. And it's a really interesting mechanic for the game, adding that little bit of like, oh, well, I want to go fight this guy, but I have to defend this city or else I'll fail the quest. It adds that little extra like urgency to the game. and I like that a lot.
No, definitely. Um, Not technically a Budokai game, but it runs off the Budokai engine. We should probably mention Dragon Ball Evolution, the game.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, that's also a PSP game. That's the only system it came out for.
Yeah, and it's better than the movie it's based off of, kind of.
Yeah, it basically the story mode just retells the story of the movie. Uh,
Very abridged.
yes, and the combat is literally the exact same as the Shin Budokai games, just with Dragon Ball Evolution skins.
Yes,
Which is just silly.
it is one of those weird games that exists. So one other thing we haven't mentioned yet, but all of these games were developed by a company called Dimps, who they've been around for a very long time. They're actually an offshoot of SNK, that's the studio that makes like the King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, Art of Fighting, just a whole bunch of like classic arcade fighters. Um, they spun off from SNK and they famously made handheld Sonic games for years, but they also made a ton of Dragon Ball Z games, like all the Budokais, um, all the PSP ones. They Xenoverse. They made Xenoverse.
Oh.
They also helped develop Street Fighter 4, so they've been their fighting game pedigree is very strong.
Yeah.
But these games in particular are some of the ones they're most well known for. They also made an Inuyasha fighter on PlayStation.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, they also though did one other game that we should probably cover, even though it's not technically a Budokai game, but it's basically one, and that's Infinite World.
Yes, it's one of the few PS2 DBZ games that I never touched personally.
This game is very mediocre in a lot of ways. Famously, like the balancing in this game is horrendously bad to the point where, like, I believe with like the right items, Yamcha is like the most OP character in the game.
Which is just silly.
Yeah, it was basically that engine. There was 40 characters, 100 transformations. It was basically kind of just like another. They hyped it up as literally the best of the Budokai series.
It even says that on the case. All right.
Yeah, but in reality, it was like they took popular elements of the Budokai series and just slapped them together and didn't polish any of it. And we got this game that's hard to find now and not very good.
I mean, I'd still give it a try nowadays. If I get my hands on a PS2 again and get a copy of it, I'd still give it a shot, just to have it under my belt at the very least.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely. I don't know if I'd say it's better than Sagas.
I mean, Sagas isn't a good game, but it's a fun game.
It's fun with friends.
Yeah, it's fun co-op because it's like the only Dragon Ball co-op game.
It's also the only Dragon Ball game to release on Xbox.
Yeah, that's true. At least the original Xbox.
I mean, to be fair, the best Dragon Ball fighter on PS2 is the one that's not even related to Budokai in the slightest.
Super DBZ.
Super DBZ, the one that plays like an actual fighter.
Yeah. Which really threw me off the first time I played it.
Yeah, because you're used to this like weird, goofy Dragon Ball style fighting, and then you play that one, you're like, oh, this one's actually like you need to know how to play a fighting game to play.
Yeah, that's why I was bad at it.
It's also one of the few that has Chi-Chi as a playable character.
Yeah. Well, a side note, the Dragon Ball Evolution game, if I remember correctly, is, to my knowledge, the only game where you play as Bulma.
You're right.
Well, actually, that's not true now, because Dragon Ball The Breakers.
Oh, eat the Breakers.
because
I still don't know what to think of that game.
you play as first arc Bulma, 16-year-old Bulma, with like the weird like Middle Eastern outfit.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
one of her many outfits during that first arc.
Yeah, she changed her clothes a lot in that.
She wore a bunny girl suit at one point too,
Mm-hmm.
and then kept the ears later on
Yeah,
because they needed a plot reasoning for the monster carrot thing.
yeah, but yeah, friggin' Budokai games are good. I enjoy them a lot. It's one of those game series that I always end up going back to at some point. Unfortunately, right now the only games I can play are the Shin Budokai ones without a whole lot of effort with diminishing returns.
Yeah.
When my daughter gets older, I'll be able to have all my stuff out and available. But as of right now, I pretty much just the main ones I have out.
Yeah. Sadly, though, like Budokai kind of ends on the PS2. The closest thing after that was Burst Limit, which was a weird kind of like attempt at doing the 2D style fighters on like next gen hardware, but it like completely flopped and everyone jumped right towards the Raging Blast games.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a bummer because we didn't get another 2D fighter for a while after that. Not until Fighters, I believe.
Well, there was the Extreme Ten on 3DS, which was essentially beta fighters in a way.
Yeah, it pretty much was Beta Fighters because it came out like what, a year beforehand, and it was made by the same people. So
Yeah. There was also, I guess, the Supersonic Warriors games were kind of 2D, but also 3D at the same time.
kind of, sorta. That was like a weird hybrid kind of deal.
Also made by Arc, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because other than that, like the only other 2D fighter I can think of is Tenkaitsu, and enough said.
Yeah, that's not a good game.
No.
that was just an objectively bad game.
That's like God. Webfoot Technologies made a lot of Dragon Ball games, and they're either really good or really bad. That's like there's no in between.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, because up to before Fighters, though, it was really just those couple.
Yeah. And we haven't had another one since Fighters. I mean, Fighters is still going strong. It has a really big like tournament scene.
To be fair, until recently, Fighters was still the final actual fighting game released.
Until recently? Am I missing one?
Well, the new one that's coming out.
Oh, okay, yeah. I gotcha. Which, I mean, that was going to be more like the 3D fight style that has been kind of all the rage ever since the Tenkaichi games.
Yeah. It's basically a love letter to the Tenkaichi fans, which, I mean, good for them. I was never a huge Tenkaichi guy myself, but
I'm personally excited for it. I love the idea of having another Tenkaichi game, but with all the new characters.
Like, oh yeah, I mean, I'll buy it definitely just to experience it.
I mean, hell, they could just make like Sparking TOP and just have all characters from the Tournament of Power, and that alone would be a wild game.
They should just do like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. Everybody's here. Every character ever from Dragon Ball.
That'd be amazing.
including the random NPCs that no one cares about.
That would be like the definitive Dragon Ball game if they did that. That would make everybody happy.
Well, there'd still be someone who would complain because that's just how the internet works, but
yeah, well, I mean, for a long time there was definitely a lot to complain about because I forget exactly what the situation was, but for a long time there was a reason why we were getting so many Dragon Ball games. It was because the people who were putting them out there were they had like a contract that said they had to put out a Dragon Ball game once a year. So there was a lot of these games that had the potential to be really, really good, but because they had to just get it out there so they could have that one check mark and get to work on the next one for the following year, like a lot of them ended up pretty much coming out unfinished, which
yeah,
was a bummer. But I mean, it kept us busy while we were still waiting on new Dragon Ball to start coming out.
Yeah, honestly, the games are what kept Dragon Ball alive during that period before Kai, after GT ended.
Honestly, I can't see any other series doing that really. Like, are there any other series that have just been gone for like a significant period of time that they're just consistently making games for?
No, not really. Because like I'm thinking of other big animes, and like you can't say Naruto because Naruto's kind of been always going.
Yeah, pretty much ever since it came out, it like never stopped because Shippuden ended and they were like, all right, Boruto. Like,
Yeah. Because like even like thinking about Naruto, Naruto is probably the only other anime that consistently gets games like as much as like Dragon Ball.
oh, uh, I mean, at least from the time when Naruto started, yeah. I'd say One Piece is catching up if
Oh
it's
yeah,
not
one
already
yeah,
there.
One Piece. How could I forget One Piece?
Yeah,
I
how dare you?
how could I
especially with
forget
your, especially with your neighbor.
how could I forget One Piece? I'll get rid of that before she gets before it summons her. Um
Gonna hear a knock at your door any second now.
yeah. I didn't I yeah, I should have thought about that. One Piece has probably more games than anything now.
True. And I know there was I don't remember the name of it, but I know that there was a like you know like how we have like the Jump Victory versus and Jump Force and
Oh
those
yeah,
games.
the combo games. Those are interesting.
But they
Sig-
had we never got them in the West to my knowledge, but there were like original DS versions of those kinds of games, which were much more Smash Brothers style with like those kinds of like platform stages where you get knocked off and stuff, and they had way more characters available. And like, I wish we had gotten those games, or they would release another one,
Hmm.
like one that isn't like Jump Force or Jump Victory versus.
Like one that's actually finished, not those.
Yeah, but
Um,
I mostly mean like the style of it, like
yeah,
the Super Smash Brothers style of it, but with anime characters from across all shonen. Like that would be sick. I would love that.
I'd be into that. Yeah, because I'm still thinking game wise, like even like because even the other big ones like Bleach really didn't have a ton of games.
No, it didn't, which is weird because Bleach had a huge following over here for a while.
Yeah, it did. Like Inuyasha had more games than people seem to think.
Yeah. Yu Yu Hakusho didn't have much to my knowledge.
No, Yu Hakusho had like one game on the PS2 and then a couple GBA games.
Yeah, which the PS2 fighter was decent. And obviously Tournament Tactics, which I'm still in the middle of a play run of that.
It also had a fighter on 3DO.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, set throwing that one out there. But
When are you guys covering that one?
whenever Thrak finishes watching the show,
Oh, is he watching it right now?
he was. I don't know if he still is.
Oh
He,
yeah, you know what? I think I do remember him mentioning on the Discord.
I'll have to mention it again. He probably got distracted by something else.
It's
But
possible.
yeah, FMA only had a couple games.
Hmm. Yeah, it's well, there. I mean, a lot of these newer animes are getting games really fast. Like Jujutsu Kaisen only just finished their second season and they have a
Oh,
game.
yeah, and that game's a hunk of garbage.
No, I wouldn't know. I just know that it has one.
I saw a video of a YouTuber playing. Oh, my camera's blurry. That's nice. There we go. Um, I saw a video of a YouTuber playing it, and he was like, "This game is garbage. It is like the most generic arena. It's basically like the Naruto Ninja Storm style, but like lazier somehow."
Mhm. um, I did see footage of the JoJo fighting game, and that one actually looks decent.
Those are pretty good. JoJo's been getting a pretty consistent amount of games over the years.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to
Um,
think. I can't really think of any other ones that are even remotely comparable to the library of Dragon Ball, Naruto, and One Piece games that we've gotten.
it really isn't.
Hmm, weird.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's
Oh
the
wait,
Budokai.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh! I feel like is cheating, to be honest.
Kind of is. I mean, I'd say it's less cheating than Pokemon because Pokemon was a game first.
I mean, wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh technically no, it was a manga first.
Mm-hmm.
Yu-Gi-Oh's a weird one. That's like
Yeah,
its own rabbit hole.
we should do an episode on what the hell was it called? Duelist of the
Sacred.
Roses.
Actually, Duelist of the Roses, I would like. I thought you were gonna say Sacred Cards. And I was gonna like, like the easiest game ever.
Yeah, Duelist of the Roses was hard as balls.
Yeah, because it's a tactical game for some reason.
Yeah, it's a tactical game where they just kind of make up their own rules, like the way that you put down the cards and do fusion stuff. It's so bizarre. And it doesn't even have close to all the cards that it should, but
we could do a whole episode on Yu-Gi-Oh games probably because like the Yu-Gi-Oh Forbidden Memories was technically the prequel to Duelist of the Rose. Because it has the Solomon's ancestor in it, the blue guy in the beginning.
Yeah. The the guy who had like a mask or something. What the hell did they call him in that? I remember him in Duelist of the Roses, and they called him something weird.
He's in Forbidden Memories as well. Forbidden Memories is great because it's hard as fuck, and like they just make up the rules as they go along.
You know what I thought was really? I know we're going off on a tangent right now, but you know what I thought was really bizarre about the Yu-Gi-Oh anime when they actually like went deep into like the ancient Egypt stuff was how like Yugi's grandfather was pretty much there in ancient Egypt, but apparently had no relation to Yugi or to the pharaoh or the pharaoh's father. So it's just like, why are you here? Like, if we're part of the same bloodline, then what is going on here? This makes no fucking sense.
Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it.
And maybe I'd have to read the manga, but I don't know.
You know what's funny though? They did a third game in that quote unquote series, the one on GameCube, the Falsebound Kingdom, and they completely got rid of the card game and just made it a strategy game for no reason.
Jesus Christ!
It is the weirdest trilogy ever because it's 3 games, all somewhat related, on 3 different systems with 3 drastically different gameplay styles.
Yeah. That's bizarre. One thing I will say about the Duelist of the Roses, though, is I fucking like it was one of the only Yu-Gi-Oh games that actually made an effort at having individual models for each monster, and like it was slow as balls with the loading and everything, but like essentially it worked the way it did in the show, where you summon the monster and the thing appears and they doesn't attack and either kill it or not, and then you go back to the board, but. If it was faster, it would have worked a lot better. But most people ended up just skipping it.
That was also during the period of time where you could just fuse fucking anything.
Yeah, which was kind of awesome. Because you just have a whole hand of cards and you just summon them all at once just to see what would fuse and what wouldn't.
It's like nothing here is good. Just these 2 randomly fuse, see what happens. And
the best was when you would just lay down all your cards like that. And like 3 would fuse all in a row. Like you'd fuse 2 cards together, and then that would fuse to the next card, and so on. It's just like, holy shit, what did I just do?
And then it would end up being so detrimental to you in the long run because you didn't plan it out, and you're like, "Fuck."
Yeah, that was such a weird game.
That game is great and awful. Like I love it and hate it.
That's a game I'd love to do a replay of just for the fuck of it.
I gotta pull that out again at some point. The thing I remember most about that game was it gave you the Magnet Warrior cards.
Yes, I remember that.
Because that's like my favorite line of cards. And there's like more of them now that I have to track down apparently. So
yeah, there's a bunch of like the Electromagnet Warriors and stuff and like different variations. Yeah, I have a whole like Magnet Warrior deck in Duel Links that's like based around all those. They're fun cards.
Nice. But yeah, I'm thinking we should probably wrap this up now, mostly because I got to work tomorrow. But
yeah, now we're just talking about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, we've lost the plot. So we said last week that this was going to be the end of our Toriyama kind of retrospective tribute for a little while. We just wanted to get a few of these out.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go back to covering our normal randomness again.
Our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah. I'm not sure what we're going to cover next yet. We'll probably talk about it off camera, but
yeah, we are due for another live action.
Yeah, we got to find one.
You sound so enthused.
I'm very tired.
Understandable.
Well, the last one we watched was Death Note, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that left an impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure something out off camera, but
All right.
Yeah, so once again, guys, thanks for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts in the GNC podcast feed on all the major podcasting platforms. You can find all of our links at linktree/the Barber Games, and the episodes are now available on YouTube with video editions. Hi, guys. And with that, you can also join us on the GNC Podcast Network Discord server to find all things gaming and collecting, the 3DO experience, Geek Addicts, talk gaming, anime, or just general nonsense. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
See ya.